Buried in the suppressed chapters of the Book of Enoch is a prophecy most people have never heard. The Antichrist doesn't come after humanity at random. He's working from a list. And if you know what to look for in the ancient texts, there's a decent chance you already know whether your name is on it. Most people assume the final world dictator rules through a centralized system of commerce and control, demanding obedience and punishing whoever refuses. Enoch describes something stranger. The coming beast system isn't hunting dissidents in general. It's hunting a specific kind of person, one who carries a lost capacity to see straight through what Enoch calls the grandest deception in human history. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what these people have in common, why the institutional church spent centuries trying to bury this prophecy, and whether you carry the traits the Dark Kingdom is most afraid of. To understand how serious this hunt really is, we need to start with the ancient records where the names were first written down. For close to 2,000 years, Western church authorities worked to keep the Book of Enoch out of general circulation. The Protestant 66-book canon never included it. Earlier still, around 363 to 364 AD, the Council of Laodicea drew up an approved list of scripture and left Enoch off it, which meant it wasn't read in the churches of the Roman Empire. By the 4th century, as the biblical canon solidified under Rome and Byzantium, First Enoch had fallen out of favor with both. Officials called it too strange, too esoteric to trust. It talks about fallen angels teaching humanity forbidden skills, about cosmic portals, about a divine order the earthly kings had no power over. But the text didn't disappear. In the highlands of East Africa, far outside Rome's reach, it survived intact. The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church kept the Book of Enoch as part of its biblical canon and still includes it today. When the Dead Sea Scrolls turned up in the caves of Qumran in the mid-20th century, scholars found several fragmentary copies of Enoch among the writings of the Essenes. That discovery showed that long before any institutional church decided what people were allowed to read, Enoch already circulated widely among Jews waiting for the Messiah. Once you read what's actually in the text, it's easier to understand why Western authorities wanted it gone. Enoch wasn't simply predicting the future. He describes being shown the actual structure of reality. His trip into the divine realm wasn't calm or meditative. It reads more like the veil getting torn open by force. Clouds summon him in the vision, mists call out to him, and shooting stars and lightning carry him toward the heavenly temple. He describes passing through a fiery corridor lined with hail and snow that shouldn't coexist until he's standing in front of the great glory, a figure seated on a massive throne with an icy appearance. The scale of it leaves him shaking, face down on the floor of the sanctuary. It's in this throne room that the angel Uriel tells Enoch to look at something that will matter for the rest of human history. Uriel says to him, "Observe, Enoch, these heavenly tablets, and read what is written thereon, and mark every individual fact." Enoch looks at the tablets and reads the record of everything mankind will do, the whole timeline of the human race laid out to the furthest generations. But this isn't just a historical record of things that might happen someday. It functions more like a registry, a permanent account of who belongs to which side. In chapter 103, Enoch says it directly, "I know a mystery, and have read the heavenly tablets, and have found written therein, and inscribed regarding them, that all goodness and joy and glory are prepared for them, and written down for the spirits of those who have died in righteousness." There's a divine list, a record of people marked and set apart by the Creator before they're even born. These are the ones whose spirits won't perish, and whose memory won't be erased in front of the Great One. It's a list no earthly power can alter or destroy. There's a reason the kings of the earth and the Antichrist himself are afraid of the names on that list, and we'll get to exactly what these people have in common. First, though, it's worth looking at how the other side responds to a registry it can't touch. Satan doesn't create. According to this framework, he only copies. If the Creator keeps a book of life, the adversary needs an earthly registry of his own. This counterfeit system traces back to the days of Jared, when 200 fallen angels called the Watchers descended on Mount Hermon. Led by Samjaza and Azazel, they didn't just corrupt human genetics, they built a system of control. Azazel taught humanity how to make war, how to forge swords and shields, and how to work metal. That gave people the tools to dominate and oppress each other at a scale that hadn't existed before. The Watchers laid the groundwork for what would become the Antichrist's empire, a hierarchy where a small number of people could rule over everyone else through fear, hidden knowledge, and violence. Enoch's vision of the end times wasn't a conventional war fought with weapons and armies. It was closer to an administrative hunt, a systematic effort to identify and remove anyone whose spiritual signature matched what was written on the heavenly tablets. The Dark Kingdom can't reach the eternal sanctuary to destroy the tablets themselves. The throne room is guarded, unapproachable. So instead it goes after the people whose names are written there, building systems of surveillance and social control designed to flush out the chosen. Enoch frames the Antichrist's whole operation as a search and destroy mission aimed at the individuals already recorded in those tablets. That kind of operation calls for a level of psychological manipulation most people don't expect. To see how this hunt actually plays out, it helps to look at a specific section of 1st Enoch called the Book of Parables, chapters 37 through 71. It builds on the earlier material about the fallen Watchers, but its main concern is the persecution of the righteous by a group the text calls the kings and the mighty. These kings and the mighty aren't just corrupt politicians or greedy historical monarchs. In Enoch's framework, they stand in for the final eschatological empire, the global system at the end of time that pulls all earthly power into one ruling entity. Much of the Book of Parables consists of woes and warnings aimed at this regime, centered on the suffering it inflicts on the righteous. The Antichrist system, in this reading, is fixated on one thing: finding the people on the list and breaking them. Enoch writes about this persecution in blunt terms. In chapter 103, he gives voice to the hunted righteous. We have been tortured and destroyed, and not hoped to see life from day to day. We have become the food of the sinners and the unrighteous, and they have laid their yoke heavily upon us. The text describes a society built to work against them. When they try to find somewhere safe, there's nowhere to go. When they appeal to the rulers and authorities, the system ignores them and protects the people doing the harm instead. This is the hit list at work. It's an inversion of what justice is supposed to look like. The institutions meant to protect people become weapons used against them instead. Courts, rulers, whatever passes for authority in this system, none of it functions the way it's supposed to for the people on the list. So why would the most powerful system in the text bother? Why spend so much effort crushing a specific group of ordinary people who, on paper, don't hold any political or military power at all? What is it about them that makes the kings and the mighty nervous? The answer has to do with what Enoch says will happen to the natural world before the final judgment, and what sets these particular people apart. He describes nature itself warping, the years of sinners cut short, rain withheld, crops failing to grow on schedule. But the deception isn't only about climate or failed harvests. Enoch describes something closer to a perceptual illusion. And the moon shall alter her order and not appear at her time. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order, and these shall alter their orbits. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners. The Antichrist system, as Enoch describes it, depends on people accepting an altered version of reality. The wicked look up at the changed sky, misread what they're seeing, and start treating these anomalies as gods. The whole world ends up worshipping the disruption, bowing to false signs in the heavens. The text says the opponents of the righteous write lying words and lead people astray, convincing most of the population that this new, inverted order is simply how things are. But the people on the list, the righteous, don't fall for it. That's the trait they have in common, an alignment with the original divine order that doesn't waver. While everyone else is caught up in the false reality the beast system broadcasts, The chosen look at the same events and recognize them as a deception. They hold on to a lost spiritual capacity that the fallen watchers tried to breed out of humanity in the first place. Enoch blesses those who listen to the words of the wise and learn to do the commandments of the Most High, and walk in the paths of his righteousness, and do not err with the erring. He doesn't hunt them because they're planning a physical uprising. There's no army, no weapons cache, nothing that would register as a conventional threat. He hunts them because their existence undermines the illusion. Every time one of the righteous refuses to go along with the altered reality, it exposes how fragile the empire actually is, because an empire built on universal compliance only needs a handful of holdouts to reveal the cracks. A system needs total compliance, and this particular group of people is constitutionally unable to give it, no matter what pressure gets applied to them. This is where the story turns, and it leads into a trap the beast system doesn't even know it's walking into. The Antichrist genuinely believes that by torturing and killing the righteous, he's erasing them for good, that his earthly list overrides the heavenly tablets, and that physical death is the final word. The people running the system look at the suffering they've caused and assume they've outsmarted the Creator. But what Enoch is shown in the highest heavens says otherwise. The kings of the earth are walking straight into their own destruction. One of the central claims the Antichrist makes, according to Enoch, is that his power is permanent. The kings and the mighty believe they've already won. They look at the righteous struggling, at the poverty and hardship the chosen live through, and they mock it openly. Enoch records the taunt directly, putting the words in the mouths of the wicked themselves. Blessed are the sinners, they have seen all their days, and how they have died in prosperity and in wealth, and have not seen tribulation or murder in their life, and judgment has not been executed on them. It's a taunt built entirely on appearances, on how things look while the wicked are still alive to enjoy them. The people running the beast system believe they've beaten the divine order outright. They build enormous wealth, rewrite the rules to suit themselves, persecute the chosen, and die peacefully in their own beds, convinced they've slipped past divine justice entirely. Looking only at the surface of things, at what can actually be seen and measured on earth, it does appear that the temporal hit list has won and the heavenly registry has lost. There's no visible correction, no obvious reversal of fortune, nothing that would make a skeptic reconsider. Meanwhile, the righteous are left asking why they worked so hard, went through so much trouble, and never got any relief, not even a single word of help. For a stretch of history, it genuinely looks like the fallen watchers came out ahead, and there's nothing in the daily experience of the righteous that would prove otherwise. Enoch answers that despair directly, using what's written on the heavenly tablets. Judgment isn't a side theme in these texts. It's the center of almost everything Enoch writes, and the timeline for it isn't open to negotiation. Through frameworks like the Apocalypse of Weeks and the Animal Vision, Enoch lays out a fixed timetable, one that ends with the total destruction of the wicked. Looking past the illusions the beast system has built, Enoch delivers a direct verdict against the people running it. Know ye that their souls will be made to descend into Sheol, and they shall be wretched in their great tribulation, and into darkness and chains, and a burning flame where there is grievous judgment shall your spirits enter. There's no way around this, according to the text. All the wealth accumulated over generations, the false version of reality carefully constructed, the power that seemed untouchable, none of it survives the judgment. The same people who wrote lying words to mislead everyone else end up in the same burning place prepared for Azazel and the rebellious angels who started this whole system. So what happens to the other list, the righteous who spent their lives being hunted, mocked, and pushed to the margins by a world that had no use for them? This is close to the heart of what the text is actually claiming. Being targeted and isolated by the system isn't a sign that God has walked away. According to Enoch, it's closer to proof of the opposite. That persecution here is the setup for vindication later, not a punishment in itself. Enoch reads what's written on the tablets and speaks directly to the persecuted, Your lot is abundantly beyond the lot of the living, and the spirits of you who have died in righteousness shall live and rejoice, and their spirits shall not perish. The people on this list end up with a destiny that goes well beyond anything measurable in this life. They're the ones who didn't bow to the altered stars, who held on to the old wisdom while the rest of the world traded it away for something easier, and who kept doing that even when it cost them safety, comfort, and standing in the eyes of everyone around them. Across the Enochic texts, the point gets repeated in different forms. Judgment is coming to vindicate the righteous and to bring ruin on whoever persecuted them, whether that persecution was earthly or spiritual, deliberate or simply a byproduct of going along with the system. The beast system keeps hunting them because their presence is a reminder of what's coming for the system itself. Every righteous person who stays firm while everyone else buys into the mass illusion is, in this framework, a living argument against the Antichrist's permanence, proof that the illusion isn't as airtight as it needs to be. The earthly hit list and the heavenly list of the glorified turn out to be mirror images of each other. Getting named on one, it turns out, means getting written into the other. In a strange way, the Antichrist isn't discovering his enemies so much as identifying, one by one, exactly who's going to outlast him, and building his own list is, without meaning to, a confession of who's already won. The historical suppression of the Book of Enoch wasn't only a theological dispute over which manuscripts counted as scripture. According to this reading, it was a deliberate attempt to keep the end times rulebook away from most people. Institutional authorities didn't want it known that the coming global system depends on a kind of mass spiritual psychosis, a wholesale alteration of reality that humanity ends up bowing to without realizing it. If you look at the world today and feel a persistent friction with where things are heading, it's worth naming what that friction actually is. It isn't a flaw, and it isn't madness. In this framework, it's the spiritual immune system of the righteous doing its job. The people on the Antichrist's list share one defining trait. They're immune to the deception. They see the earthly kings for what they are and remember the uncorrupted order everyone else has forgotten. Being marginalized or targeted by the systems of this world isn't failure. According to Enoch, it's closer to a prerequisite for having your name written on the heavenly tablets. So why would this system hunt specific individuals with this much intensity? Why wouldn't the people running it just settle for ruling in peace, instead of this level of obsession with isolating the righteous and causing despair? That question points toward another mechanism running underneath all of this, one most people never think to look for. The beast system isn't only eliminating political enemies, it's drawing on something from the people it targets to sustain itself. What that is and what emotion it's actually after is covered in the next video. The Book of Enoch says a hidden system feeds on despair and reveals the emotion it craves most. Click through to see the rest of it.